You hear the word crypto, and what comes to mind? Probably lines of code, right? Digital wallets, transactions happening somewhere out in the cloud. But what if I told you that this digital world has a massive, very real, and often hidden physical footprint? Yeah, let's dig into the true cost.
Okay, take a look at this number, 0.5%. Now I know, that probably doesn't sound like a lot, but that is the share of all electricity on planet Earth that's used for just one thing, Bitcoin mining. We're not talking about a rounding error here. This is an energy demand that's on par with entire countries. And believe me, it has consequences that go way, way beyond the blockchain.
So, to really get a handle on these consequences, we've got to pull back the curtain on the process itself. What exactly is crypto mining, and why in the world does it use so much power? All right, so this gets to the very heart of what makes crypto different from, regular money. There's no big central bank, no government calling the shots. It's a totally shared system. But that brilliant design creates a huge question, right? If nobody's in charge, how do you trust any of the transactions? How do you keep the whole thing secure?
Well, the answer for Bitcoin and a lot of other cryptocurrencies is a system called proof of work. And you should think of it less like boring accounting and more like a global high-stakes lottery, a computational race. You've got thousands of super powerful computers, known as miners, all competing at the exact same time to solve this incredibly complex math puzzle.
Okay, so here's how that race actually plays out. Someone makes a transaction, right? It gets bundled up into what's called a block. And then, bam, the race is on. All those miners start crunching numbers like crazy, just burning through calculations, trying to be the very first one to find the solution. The winner gets to add that new block to the chain, and for their prize, they get rewarded with brand new cryptocurrency.
And this, right here, this is the absolute heart of the problem. For every single block, every single transaction, only one miner wins, but thousands are competing. So think about that. All the staggering amount of electricity that every single losing computer used in that race, it's just gone. It's completely wasted. And this isn't a bug. It's a feature. It's intentional inefficiency built right into the system to keep it secure.
And that brings us to the first major hidden cost, the absolutely jaw-dropping environmental price tag of this digital gold rush.
To really put that wasted energy into perspective, just look at this comparison. The electricity it takes to process one single Bitcoin transaction could power more than 350,000 Visa transactions. Let that sink in. It is a crazy difference that just shows you the sheer scale of the energy we're dealing with.
And hey, this isn't just about the carbon footprint from, burning fossil fuels to get all that power. The impact is so much broader. We're talking about air pollution, massive amounts of water needed just to cool these giant data centers, and a growing mountain of e-waste. I mean, miners have to constantly upgrade their hardware to stay competitive, and the old stuff just gets tossed.
But the cost isn't just environmental. Nope, it's economic. And it might be hitting a lot closer to home than you think. I'm talking about your own wallet.
It's one thing to talk about global energy consumption in the abstract, but what happens when one of these massive crypto mines, and we're talking about a warehouse just stuffed with electricity-guzzling computers, what happens when one sets up shop right in your town?
Well, a fascinating study from the University of Chicago looked at exactly that in upstate New York, and they gave us a crystal clear answer. The huge demand from these crypto miners literally drove up local electricity prices for everybody. The average family? They ended up paying an extra $88 a year. And for small businesses, that jump was $168. So you add it all up, and households and businesses in upstate New York were paying a combined $297 million more every single year. Now, the mining operations, they did generate about $40 million in local tax revenue, which is something. But you do the math, that still left the community with a net loss of $257 million annually. That's money coming directly out of the pockets of local people.
And it gets worse. In places with different economic setups, like China before they banned mining, the effect was even more direct. When electricity prices were fixed, the insane demand from crypto miners meant there just wasn't enough power to go around for other businesses. This crowding out effect, as they call it, led to a really sharp decline in investment and even wages for other local industries.
Okay, so the situation seems pretty bleak, right? But does it have to be this way? Is it possible to have all the innovation of cryptocurrency without these devastating side effects? Well, the answer just might be yes.
So let's look at another system called proof of stake.
Instead of that massive, energy-guzzling race we talked about, proof of stake works more like a raffle. To get in on the action, users, who are now called validators, they lock up or stake some of their own crypto as collateral. Then, the network just randomly picks a validator to create the next block. And the more you've staked, the better your odds of being chosen.
The big takeaway here is really simple. We're shifting from a global race that rewards whoever can burn the most energy to a raffle that doesn't. There's no super hard math puzzle to solve, which means you don't need warehouses packed with specialized, power-hungry machines. The result? A system that is just vastly, vastly more energy efficient.
And listen, this isn't just some theory on a whiteboard. In September 2022, Ethereum, which is the second largest cryptocurrency in the world, did exactly this. In a huge, incredibly complex upgrade they called the merge, the entire network just switched from proof of work to proof of stake.
So what was the result? Well, the Ethereum network's annual energy use basically dropped to almost zero overnight. The impact was immediate. This one move now saves about 25.7 terawatt-hours of electricity every year. And to give you some perspective on that number, that's roughly the same amount of energy the entire country of Ireland uses in a year. Just wow.
But technology isn't the only answer here. Smart policy can play a huge role too. For example, some people are proposing new electricity pricing rules. These could make sure that the huge demand from industrial-scale users, like crypto miners, doesn't automatically cause your power bill to spike.
Ultimately, this all leads to a much, much bigger question, doesn't it? The story of crypto mining is really a powerful case study for pretty much all new technologies. As innovation just keeps racing forward, it forces us to deal with this central challenge. How do we embrace progress while still being clear-eyed about its hidden costs? How do we make sure that the benefits are shared by everyone and not just paid for by the planet and the public?